I mean,
Is it fair to say that the whole problem is way messier than any of these hypotheses are trying to maybe propose?
My mentor in graduate school was Bruce Metzger, very famous textual critic, and he always talked about the least problematic solution. Which solution causes the fewest problems? And that's what happens in this case. Does Q cause fewer problems than Luke copying Matthew? And I think the answer is a strong yes. It causes fewer problems. Mark Goodacre thinks the opposite. So I'll say that Mark Goodacre's views are starting to spread because he's had graduate students and he's convinced them, and so that's how it kind of works. But the majority of scholars still hold to Q. Most of them think it doesn't solve all the problems. But I'll tell you one issue that Mark Goodacre knows everything about this. He spent half of his life studying this issue, so he knows everything. But there are complications that many people would not think about. And I'll just name one for you, which is this: when we say that Matthew and Luke copied Mark, they didn't copy the same copy of Mark. They would have had different copies. And if they had different copies, the copies would have had different wording in places. Okay? So, not only that, they didn't have our copy of Mark. When we do these comparisons of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, we're doing it out of a Greek New Testament that Greek scholars have composed based on a number of manuscripts of Matthew, a number of manuscripts of Mark, and they said, well, this is probably what Mark originally wrote, this is probably what Matthew originally wrote, this is what Luke probably originally wrote, and then you compare them to see where they're similar and different to solve the synoptic problem. But Matthew and Luke did not have our printed Greek New Testament version of Mark. They had different versions of Mark. They're different from each other and different from ours. So how can you even make that comparison? And so one of Mark Goodacre's common arguments is Matthew and Luke have this small agreement. They're called minor agreements. Mark has something else, and Matthew and Luke they agree again. That shows that Luke used Matthew. It might show that. It might show that they both had a copy of Mark that's different from our Mark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are so many problems like that's why you go with the least problematic answer.
Who do you think is the most formidable opponent against Mark Goodacre's position defending Q? I was thinking of Kloppenborg, but I'm curious because I'd love to maybe make a debate happen. Would you be interested? I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there.
There are some things in New Testament studies that I really enjoy teaching at a very basic level that I really do not enjoy going into the weeds on. For example, the chronology of Paul's life. It's like there are people who are just like, this is like they spend their lives. Oh, God, where was he in August of the year 53? That kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, my God, no. And the synoptic problem is one of them. It's like, or the source of the pseudo-Clementines. It's like, I've got these things, I just do not want to get into to debate Mark. So who's the most formidable opponent? I don't know. I think most people just don't agree with him and don't even bother refuting him because they just think it's problematic. But Kloppenborg knows a lot about Q. I don't agree with a lot of his. Kloppenborg has a theory I don't agree with on Q. Kloppenborg is one of these people who thinks that you can show the various versions of Q. So you've got Q1, Q2, Q3, where you have these various, this was the first edition of Q. This is the second edition. This is the third edition, which is very helpful for the Jesus seminar because his first edition of Q doesn't have any apocalyptic material in it. And so that's convenient because that means that the earliest source about Jesus is not apocalyptic. Yeah, well, right. If you can divide out 3 levels of editing of a non-existent source, that's kind of problematic for a lot of us. But Kloppenborg, yeah, he would be a very good one if he's willing to do it. I just don't know. I don't know people who even bother to argue for Q because most people just subscribe to it.
Bart, I enjoyed every minute of this. You are always such a great teacher, and we at MythVision honor everything, and we really appreciate your time. I hope people will go get the Paul and Jesus course, because you put a lot of time and energy into this. You've actually got a long list of courses that you've done on your website. They can go down in the description. I've got all of those links there. You just click the link. You're helping us here at MythVision. You're also helping Bart to continue doing courses, educating the world. Is there anything you'd like to end on and letting people know about that course?
Well, I'll just say that I think it's, of course, everybody who writes a book thinks that it's the most important topic anybody's ever thought of. And everybody does a course thinks it's the most important course everybody's ever done in the universe and all that. So I get that. But I've got to say, if you're interested in early Christianity, the relationship of Paul and Jesus, I mean, if you don't work that one out, forget being interested in early Christianity, because you're not. Because this is like one of the really big things. It is. It's huge. I think it's huge historically and religiously. For people who are Christian, it's important to figure out how these two might relate to each other without, covering over the differences. And for people who aren't Christian, it's just like historically, wow, how did Christianity become this thing? And so I think it's a really important topic. And I love doing this course and writing this course, and I think people would benefit from it.
Thank you so much, Bart. Everybody, check it out.